Hello everybody, James here. Now, not to rehash this point too much, but WrestleMania just isn't selling as well as they could be for a variety of reasons. Now, Las Vegas is a rip-off city. It's finally gouged enough of its customers that they simply just are not returning. There was a 7.5% drop-off, something around that anyway, between 2024 and 2025, and it's seeming to be about the same for 25 to 26, but we don't have the numbers for that yet, but it's thereabouts. So in 2 years, a 15% drop-off in tourism, pretty much. Now, Vegas is expensive, and WrestleMania ticket prices are even more expensive than they were last year. Now, like Vegas, as a whole, TKO compensated for the lowering of tourism by jacking up the prices even more to drive away the hard-working working class and middle-class type people who can no longer justify paying those ticket prices or even afford to pay those ticket prices. Now, at this point, WWE have sold some 10,000 tickets per night less than they did at WrestleMania 41 last year in the same time period. Now, WWE has apparently realized this problem, and their response has been to finally throw up their hands and, in a small admission of defeat, dropped ticket prices 25% until February 16th, I believe, which happens to be today. Now, I don't know if this is me, but I'm back on the Ticketmaster website here, and actually, I honestly can't see where the difference in prices were, at least at the beginning. All I heard was at 25%, but that's just me not really paying too much attention, because actually there was a code you needed. If you just go on the website itself, not verified resale, but the first of the regular sale one. Where is it? It was 730 odd. I'm determined to find this damn thing. Oh, forget it. Maybe it's sold. $730 odd it was per ticket. That was the cheapest non-verified resale ticket. But here's the interesting thing, is that the Twitter, the official Twitter for Allegiant Stadium, posted that there was going to be a 25% discount using the code WINTER. So as best I know, the winter code is still active until 11:59 p.m. Pacific time tonight. So if you want to use that, give it a go, see if it still works. Now, the reason I say I'm not sure about this is because, and I'll go back to this, is that the Allegiant Stadium Twitter is not there. The original post, they've taken it down like at least a day early. I don't know why. I'm almost wondering. So that post does not exist. So I'm wondering why they took it down so soon. I mean, did they hit the ticket sales goal and take the post down early? I've no idea. But in theory, the code should work. So if you're intent still, if you're intent on going and think this will be the last sale, then the code is there for you. But except my guess isn't. This isn't going to be the last sale that WWE are going to do at all, because there are still tons and tons of tickets available. And if you actually want to pay less money, you can go to another website, which I found here, Vivid Seats. Now, this is once again an official reseller, but this is a 2-day pass, and this is all in pounds, so just add 25% on. But you can get there for... I'm sorry, where are the 257? So if you want rubbish seats, you can get them for the equivalent of like, what, $330 or something per seat, instead of, I think the cheapest on Ticketmaster resale was $560. So Vivid Seats seems to be a better option for people if you want cheaper seats, and you just kind of got to have them now. You can even get floor seats for, what's that, about $1,600, $1,650, something like that. So they're not the absolute worst prices in the history of the world, I guess, but they're still incredibly expensive. Anyway, the problem when you get discount tickets so early on while selling, because we're just over 2 months away at this point, is that you're really telling people that this so-called hot ticket isn't so hot. So that's the risk you run with doing this kind of thing. And secondly, it's telling people that there are still plenty of tickets available, and most likely will be tickets available on the day of the event when they're really going to drop prices. So I think a lot more people will hang tough and wait until the last week or so, especially if they're continuing to watch over how many tickets are sold and what's still available. Anyway, Another admission of guilt, of course, that the tickets aren't selling as well, is banning watch parties in hotels and bars and such, which is only go to anger fans flying in for the WrestleMania weekend festivities, but had no intention of actually going to WrestleMania itself, as well as all the local venues that were looking forward to a good weekend worth of takings from the wrestling fans, including other indie wrestling events and conventions and whatnot that might put people off. But anyway, there has also been some interesting movements within WWE and TKO as of recent. They've had a kind of almost a visceral reaction to this, as apparently internally a few days ago, if I can find the website here, there's been so much panic about how to proceed in regards to encouraging ticket sales that there was a multi-department meeting to essentially create a task force on how to increase sales. Here it is. This is from WrestleZone. WWE held a multi-department company meeting on February 11 to address lower than expected ticket sales for WrestleMania. All departments have been tasked with promotions and strategies to boost ticket sales and momentum heading into the event. And the report also noted that WWE plans to keep ticket pricing as is for the time being. Well, that was only a few days ago, and look how that one worked out. So, you don't need a multi-department task force or meeting to figure out the issues here, because they're kind of obvious, really. And a lot of them, the damage is already done. Other things like booking, creative, that kind of thing, better promotion, can still all be taken care of. Anyway, I mean, there's certain things that you can't deal with, like Bron Breakker's hernia, Drew McIntyre's... this one was interesting, but Drew McIntyre's surprise WWE title win, things like that have all derailed the obvious paths, dare I say, to WrestleMania for a lot of the guys and girls going. So there's not really anything to sell on the card, really, apart from the WrestleMania experience itself at this point, 2 months out. But more will become obvious when Elimination Chamber is in the books. But Elimination Chamber is also suffering from a lack of interest 12 days away from the event. Here we go. Still many tickets available still. CM Punk versus Finn Balor is, I guess, the main event, as it were, but nobody really thinks Finn Balor has a hope whatsoever in winning. Then there will be the usual two way too long speciality matches, one for the men, one for the women, and then one more match for the card for the Bruce Pritchard's favourite ever 4 PLE cards. Anyway, last year, Elimination Chamber drew 37,500 people to Toronto. This year's is around 14,500 12 days out. And it looks like, if we zoom in a bit, there still looks to be like almost 50% of the floor seats are still going begging at this point. How much are they? Second row, just $7,000, not including taxes. What is it at the back? Just shy of 2,000. And if you want floor seat, these crappy floor seats where you won't see anything, you're still looking at over 700 with taxes. Okay. So, and actually, there are tons going begging as well. So the cheapest one is you get a $240. I know you can't see that on my screen, but it's $240 are the cheapest buy-ins at this point. But anyway, I'll briefly mention the booking as a major problem here, so as not to get too redundant. But too little happens on the weekly shows heading into WrestleMania. The weekly shows range from not particularly exciting to straight up boring. And I think it took me about a week or so, going back to the Royal Rumble, it took me a week or so after Roman Reigns won the men's Royal Rumble match, just to really hit home that it just seems like business as usual again. The more things change, the more things stay the same. And I just don't feel any real excitement for the proposed main event of Roman Reigns versus CM Punk for the world title. Now, in the last 12 months, the John Cena Farewell Tour really propped up the business because the creative wasn't that great for the most part that year, despite, once again, the terrible WrestleMania main event and that nonsensical heel turn. Ultimately, it could have been the greatest thing in the world, but, they didn't follow through with it properly, so Cena was left to flounder and kind of think of reasons as to why he was doing it, and those reasons amount to frowning. But then there's the weekly cards that have had multiple stories that just end for no reason. The tag team division is deader than ever, and the exact same people are on top month after month after month, and they keep doing rematches constantly. And the wrestlers, the wrestlers that people do love as well, have basically been putting their creative they found their ceiling by the creative team, and then the creative team then confirmed it on WWE Unreal that they're never going to get to a certain point. Maybe they will, maybe they'll see the fan backlash and finally change their tune, but I was thinking LA Knight is the most obvious answer. But here's something else. WrestleMania is in the exact same building as they were last year, and that is a huge negative, quite frankly. But WrestleMania 4 and WrestleMania 5 in the absolute golden era also did the same thing in Atlantic City, and to be honest, the crowds there sucked as well, but and actually it was for much the same reason, because there were a load of Atlantic City gamblers there who were just going to see another show, and neither of those crowds were particularly good apart from the main event of WrestleMania 5, which I remember being great, and also was a major success as well, even though it was following on the second year in the same place, because they had an incredible main event going into the show. It was booked months out, and it was building over the course of a year, and that was, of course, Hulk Hogan versus Randy Savage, the Mega Powers Explode. Oh, and also it was a one-day event with like a 19,000 capacity rather than a two-day event with 65,000 people capacity there or thereabouts over 2 nights. So this WrestleMania 42 show does not have that. It doesn't have that big Hulk Hogan, Randy Savage, mega event to get people interested. Even Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes a few years ago, the Finish the Story thing, which was a 2-year story that, and it was a bold call to have Cody lose the first time as well, but ended up being really, really great in the long run. But then this time, there's nothing like that going to WrestleMania 42. And if you think about it, it's the same two guys in the same roles pretty much they've been in for many years, with a combined age of 87, with no real personal issues that you've seen that you've just seen, time and again, and main event multiple WrestleManias, not in CM Punk's case, just one, but be basically the stars of the show for many years, going out and having a grappling contest. That's pretty much it. It's kind of like the build to Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart at the moment, which was also the same build. I'm the best, no, I'm the best, and that was it. And to be honest, that show didn't really perform very well at the box office either. Now, Punk and Reigns sure sold really well their upcoming match on Raw last week, as I record this, but returning to the same venue in a dying tourist town where everything costs way too much, and most people would need to save for months and months to get nosebleed tickets, along with the flights and the hotels and the food and the parking as well, as something I didn't mention before, is a complete rip-off. Where's the hook to make this a can't-miss event? That's the big thing. Last year it had Cena and Cody, and it was Cena's last WrestleMania ever, and that was a big deal, and he just turned heel. Once again, they shit the bed on the finish, but that's not the point. The other issue here is that Triple H has reportedly been blamed for a lot of the creative staleness or outright blunders, but there have also been bright spots in amongst all the frustration. Now, the biggest issue is that all the creative plans at this point are still really all up in the air. Now, they worked well 2 years ago, it worked terribly 1 year ago, but then this year you can't even blame The Rock for sticking his oar in where it wasn't asked for or needed, quite frankly. So we still don't really know what kind of card this is going to shape up as. Once again, they're still only promoting the WrestleMania experience, not any matches that are jumping out as being, I guess, particularly obvious what they're going to be. I mean, who will Brock Lesnar face? It was originally thought to be Gunther. Then people were thinking, because of the Royal Rumble, Obafemi. But then LA Knight has been thrown out as a name these last few days, because I guess that would make sense as well if he goes through the rest of the vision and then ends up against Brock at WrestleMania 42. That would be something. But once again, the card isn't clear at all. And I know we're still 2 months out, but you usually have an idea of where everything's heading. But then there's also injuries. Seth Rollins definitely going to be healthy for WrestleMania. Is Bron Breakker going to make it to WrestleMania? We don't know how severe the hernia was. But creatively speaking, let's not also forget that the last year at WrestleMania 41 burned enough people with one of the absolute dirt worst, most damaging finishes in WrestleMania history. Travis Scott, need I say more? But people's bank accounts also got burned as well. And add to this the current economic climate, everybody's tightening the belts, the political climate where a lot of international visitors aren't feeling particularly welcome at the moment to fly over, as well as all the expense. And there are other major events happening in the US in the same year, so if people are going to fly over, it might be for them instead. So if you went to WrestleMania last year, you're kind of not missing anything by not going this year, at least at this point, because pretty much there's not been very much roster changeover either. It's practically the same people who are going to be on the show in the same arena. Why do you need to go 2 years in a row? So ticket sales are also surprisingly low, considering that next year's WrestleMania is in Saudi Arabia, where many people are not willing to travel to. So more people would actually rather wait for WrestleMania in 2028, I guess, rather than go to this year's or next, apparently. But it once again shows how short-sighted and, dare I say, even overconfident TKO has been with moving WrestleMania from New Orleans back to Las Vegas, because once again, New Orleans was supposed to get WrestleMania this year. They'd signed papers, they accepted the site fee, everything else like that, and then Vegas offered a much bigger site fee, and then WWE and TKO seemed to do everything in their power to move the event back, including, I'm sure, paying some big fine as well for the whole bit. But the reason, aside from the fact that it was, a huge money-spending event last year, and it probably will be again this year, just not as much, but the other thing is that Nick Khan and all of those guys, or a lot of them at least in TKO, actually live in Vegas. So essentially, it's just one great big convenience for them to invite all their impossibly rich friends over and have one great big party for a week, and then WrestleMania happens to be the backdrop for it. But once again, the TKO top dogs all live in Vegas, so it's really all about them is why this is happening, and then it's the bottom line of how much money they can really extract, and then far back at the line is the actual fan service, I think, with TKO at this point. You're going to find a lot of similarities with this video and the next video I'm going to be talking about, and that's AEW's woes at the box office in their Australia tour. So I'm going to be discussing that in a video later on today, which I will post probably a few hours after this one, so look out for it. And that's pretty much it. Like, comment, subscribe. I will see you for the next video in a few hours.